Paul Achar is now joining me. He is CEO of Jade Communications. He is a coach in applied human communication, and you teach leaders in what to say and what not to say. What do you make of this?
Well, thank you, Larry, for having me this evening. First, I would say I'm really appalled by the Honorable Senator's communication. To begin with, a couple of things that you need to be able to exemplify as a leader. One, good judgment and even temperament. And when it comes to expressing the ideas that you do have, you need to be able to use language that is palatable, that is acceptable. And what happened yesterday certainly does not meet the threshold of those three things.
But what do you expect from somebody who has made a reputation, has actually built a reputation out of being, in some cases, out of the box, and people love him for that. He's one of the most popular leaders in the country.
Well, sometimes some issues are not about being loved or having your supporters. Some issues are about right or wrong, especially when gauged from the basis of what is expected of a leader, of his teacher. The senator of a city like Nairobi, there's certain expectations that we do have. When it comes to communicating, for example, we do expect that his language should be language that is appropriate. I can't repeat the things that he said on national TV. I'm embarrassed to literally say that my senator used such language. And some leaders have not been able to evolve into what is expected of them. Some of the things that you may have used while on the streets to get you a seat at the table of leadership needs to change, and also you need to evolve, grow into the role of some sort. So I would say that our honorable senator still has some ways to go.
When he said those things, there were lots of people who were celebrating and clapping that audience, which is why the argument will be made. He spoke like that as an MP, and he got re-elected. Well, he became a senator, and he still continue to speak like that, and it seems his popularity is rising. So why should he listen to you?
Well, that's what I said. I said that regardless of whether you are supported or not, some things are about right or wrong. When a leader uses language like that, would you, Larry, find that to be appropriate language? Would you?
You see, the argument I'm trying to make here is it's not just Mike Sonko. There's the rise and rise of Donald Trump in the US, and he's running a campaign on being politically incorrect. And he beat a field of, 17 other Republican candidates to win the nomination.
The question is, I'll go back again to whether is it right or is it wrong? And if you look at the conversation that has taken place since this incident yesterday at the funeral, you find that many people online have gone ahead to say that, well, this was totally inappropriate. This was a funeral. This is a leader.
It could be said it is
within
a small elite circle of people who all subscribe to the same standards of decency.
I don't think so. Decency, human decency cuts across all particular classes. Things like integrity, things like being fair, speaking well, even when you're provoked. And one of the things, if you looked at that clip, you realize that at some point he moved aggressively towards
I think it was the MC.
The MC.
Yes, they were trying to get him off the stage.
Absolutely. And that was an issue of temperament. When you're a leader, you will be offended. People will say things that really you might not agree with. And as a leader, it is upon you to express good judgment, a stable temperament, and that is what is needed. I would like to say that perhaps we have lowered the threshold of what we expect of our leaders to communicate. This is not just about Senator Sonko. As we look across the spectrum of leadership in this country, we need to ask ourselves, are these people communicating? Are they expressing good judgment? What language are they using? Are they unifying people, especially at a period like this when we are getting close to the electoral cycle in this country, the silly season of our politics? Some people are saying really silly things that are not acceptable. As citizens of this country, we need to demand a certain threshold of leadership and communication.
I want to show everybody a video of what happened after that speech when the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga walked out of that, and there was a bit of a commotion as Senator Sonko himself was led off the days after those controversial comments. As we look at this video, I wonder, Paul, is it possible to polish Senator Sonko while keeping his personality?
Well, let's see the video. Look, I do think that every leader has an opportunity to evolve. You can campaign, like they say, you could campaign, you could have a particular image that you have crafted out there, but once you get to the table of leadership, there's certain expectations that are required of you. And I do believe that with a willingness to be able to evolve, he can be able to evolve. He can be able to raise himself up to a level on which he espouses certain ideals.
Without losing his personality?
I do believe so.
That's street savviness?
You don't have to lose your street savvy. You can maintain your street savvy, but you can express, you can bring dignity to the office that you hold. It's about dignity.
If you were to advise Senator Mike Sonko, what would you tell him?
What I would say, first thing, he needs to apologize to his constituents for the words that he uttered yesterday. I think apologies don't make you a weak leader. It just shows that maybe you've seen that what you said, how you acted is not right. And secondly, I would like then to say that moving ahead, he needs to try and ask himself what dignity should he bring to the office of Senator of Nairobi. He talks about aspiring for greater things. The higher you go, the more dignified and the more grace and honor you need to be able to bring to the office. And it is possible for him to be able to do that.
All right, you see, this is what I was telling you about. Dennis Blessed tweeted us to say, this remains the governor of the city. He advocates for affairs of less fortunate in society. Well,
even the less fortunate are guided by certain ideals, and there are certain things that they do hold. Basic decency.
Okay.
If you abuse and use language that is inappropriate, whether you are the elite, whether you belong to any grouping in society, there are certain things that we hold as human beings that we find as decent.
Let's leave it there. Paul Achar, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Larry, for having me.
CEO of Jade Communications. And a lot of people, there's been a lot of chatter regarding Senator Mike Sonko's comments and whether they fall under the category of treason. We've been speaking to some lawyers and they tell us not quite. It might fall under the category of bad manners, but not necessarily treason, because from what I understand, speaking to at least 2 lawyers this afternoon, he would have to have declared that he wants the power of the presidency for it to be considered treason. Just declaring himself acting president is really just that, just a declaration, nothing more.